So yeah, I think it is a charity that uses sport, physical well-being, to support the local community, and mainly create platforms to foster social cohesion. So it's all about delivering activities that meet the need of our primary beneficiaries.
Yeah.
But at the same time, or alongside that, we have these strong aims and objectives of fostering cohesion between different communities, within ethnic minorities communities themselves, and also between ethnic minorities and the local indigenous community. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell really what we do. We've benefited from Pope for many years now. I think obviously being a small growing organization. I think you remember, yeah, many years ago I used to have meetings with yourself, and I think it transitions into Pope gradually, or Pope to cover. So I think it's always good to have someone with the knowledge, expertise, and guidance, because obviously I think many people within the charitable sector, leaders like ourselves, you just got into it out of passion. You know, no one was, we know, we're not born fundraisers at all. We become fundraisers out of passion to secure funding so that we can continue funding our work. So having said that, because we are not experts ourselves, and this is not really our full-time work where we focus on it, it has been useful having organizations and individuals like Imogen around, who can, one, build the link between ourselves and funders. I think that's been really useful.
Yeah.
um, and secondly, obviously, providing that expertise around, okay, we've got an idea, who will be the best suitable funder to give us funding. And then the third bit is the final piece, which is around drafting the bid, making sure someone have a look at it. You are more or less certain that whoever read the other side, they'll be reading the funding bit they understand, they get, because sometimes having the wording right in the funding application is difficult. And I think through us really having that support is really key, because we are operating in a domain that's very competitive. And if you don't have that support, you're almost setting yourself to fail. So I think that support has been really great, but especially a lot around, also alongside that, building links with funders. We've been involved in a couple of meetings where funders came down to get to know more about organizations operating in Plymouth. We've always been invited to tell the story, tell people more about it. And I think one of the key things with that is Rank Foundation, for example. We were introduced to them by Pop. I think I remember back in the days, Jackie was still the former CEO, and Imogen made those links happen. And ultimately, following that, I think Rank became our largest and funder over two years period. And what that ultimately did was giving the charity more credibility to be able to attract more funders, because obviously we've realized that that's always important, because whenever you write a funding bid, people will be asking, oh, who is funding you already? So I think having been introduced, and we took part in several meetings when the rank funders came down. So I think it's an approach that's really useful. Support from rank. We had support from pretty much all our funders currently. We were also introduced to the People Health Trust about four years ago, and we had a 2 years funding. Then we had the second round of 2 years. We've gone in now for another third round of 2 years. Hopefully, we are in stage two. Then we were invited to pitch our project or ideas at some of those events that Top Plus organize, what they call pitching your ideas project to different funders. And I think actually what happens ultimately for us preparing for that it got us really to write in our youth program strategy over 5 years. So that's the strategy that was sent to funders before we actually went into to pitch the ideas. And I think on the day there were about quite clear three, four funders who quite clearly said they could fund our project. And I think from there, I think the conversation started really. I think to date we've managed to secure 90 grand from Tudor Trust, and I think that's where we met them. And again, we went through the same process. I sent some draft to Imogen before I sending the final application. So we've just got approval for the big lottery project. I think for 474,000 over 5 years. So this is our biggest so far over 5 years, and I think it really brings some sustainability for our youth program. So yeah, and I think we're still in touch with another fund that we met on the day, Paul Hamlin Foundation. So that's also, I think, looking very, very positive. So I think, yeah, it went from being introduced to different funders, pitching our ideas, meeting them on the day, following up with applications, maintain contact with Imogen just for her to advise whether we need to twist things around and all of that, and to yeah, now being successful with all these funders. So yeah, so I think we are I think for the first time out of all those fundings applications, for the first time we've now managed to appoint a full-time operations manager, which is massive in terms of so secure funding for 5 years. That is really massive in terms of our planning sustainability, because most of the trustees, including myself, though, have been given a lot of hours. We are volunteers. It's not really our full time. So the charity at some point in the last 5 years, was the growth was affected by the fact that trustees were not there every time, and I think there was always a fear around staff turnover, because if you don't have someone on the ground looking after seasonal workers, you lose, you don't grow pretty much. So now I think it's just looking at implementing our youth strategy and sustaining I think other project we've been doing in Plymouth. So I think we've also, as part of our fundraising strategy, we've managed to set up a small trading arm of the charity to do sport clothing and all of that, printing business pretty much. So that's obviously, we're hoping that will pick up in 2-3 years time, so that we can start trading and reinvesting the money back in the charity, so that we don't solely rely on grants going forward. So I suppose that's that really, and I think that having a manager in place would give myself and other trustees more time to focus on other bits that need to be done to sustain the organization. So.